Hey, welcome you guys into the show today. We will be talking about the NBA Finals preview, what the things the NBA media loves to get wrong, and who will win the NBA championship, all coming up. Thank you guys again for listening to the Men Who Cry podcast. I'm your guy, Just Rich. We are back again with one of the best NBA writers that we have, and one of the people that answers my text message when I ask them to join this podcast. Olisa Azikiwe is back. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. Always happy to see that text come through that you want me back on the pod. Love talking ball. And let's get into it.
Yeah, man. We are going to get into a game that I just spoke to you a bit because I went to the Kid Cudi show, which was a religious experience, but I did watch the replay of OKC Spurs because I am a dedicated journalist on this thing. And I thought the call that Mike Tirico gave at the end was so fitting. Personally, I think Mike Tirico is one of the best sports broadcasters that we have going right now.
Yeah.
And when he said it's Wemby's West, the Spurs have won the championship, I felt that as being so prophetic because we had this whole year of people talking about how it's OKC and that's it. OKC's repeating. They're done. We're doing dynasty. And we'll get into a little bit of media takes after that. And Wemby just said, fuck this. I'm ready to come for it now. And the thing I always feel about greatness is I don't have to convince you that something's great. Like, you just know it. I saw LeBron in 2007 destroy the Pistons. It's like, oh, this guy is great. I saw Shaq dominate teams. No one needs to give me analytical reasons why this man is one of the best players in the league, right? Shout out to Kenny Atkinson. I had a friend, I think it was right before game one of the Eastern Conference final it was before the Eastern Conference Finals game one. And he's not a big basketball fan. And I was telling him, like, the Knicks are in the finals or in the Eastern Conference Finals. They have a really good chance to go to the finals. He was like, yeah, but like, I just don't see it. I just don't get the whole Brunson thing. Like, I don't really understand it. And then game one happened. And I sent him a clip of what happened. I said, that's why. That's it. There was nothing else to be said. So what was your main takeaways of what I feel like is going to be the Spurs Invitational, the Western Conference, of the game last night between the Spurs and the Thunder?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, looking back, not only on these playoffs, but the season as a whole, is I was one of those people who was, in belief that OKC was in the beginnings of their dynasty, expecting this to be last year to be one of many and possibly many in a row when it comes to their title acquisitions. And but it also speaks to the importance of, watching the games and watching the regular season in terms of like, yeah, you can just go off of, OKC, they won it. They're still good. I'm tuned back in the playoffs when they inevitably are going to be there and, dominate their way through the West. But watching the regular season, you saw the Spurs as not only a team of potential, but a team that was slowly but surely putting it together in real times in terms of becoming a legit contending team, a title contender. And by the end of the season, and not even by the end of the season, throughout the season, like especially midway through, when you would see their matchups with OKC, it wasn't that, oh, this team has potential. It's like, oh, this team might actually be on their same level as the defending champions. And when we get to the playoffs, which we are in now, we got here now, and just watching how this series is played out, it was no longer, this rising star matching up against the defending champs who are on the verge of a dynasty. It was, wait, this team that, was still considered young by a lot of people, including myself. No, they're ready now. And Wemby is ready now. And Stephon Castle, even though, his playmaking and turnovers can be a lot to be desired, competitively, athletically, just through will of determination, he's ready now, as well as Vassell, Dylan Harper, the rookie and the vet himself. Just a lot of players on that team that you thought were, a year away from being a year away, were ready at this moment. and it was impressive to see. It was shocking to see, especially someone like I said who thought OKC were a team that was both deep and skilled enough to like run the NBA for years to come. But seeing what Wemby was able to do, not only to mentally and physically dominate OKC and how they were able to operate, it was something that you're not going to forget in the short term, or at least in the long term. But yeah, it was great as a neutral to be able to witness that.
Yeah, and I think this was the series that, like you said, it kind of arrived for where the Spurs are supposed to be. The reason I had a biggest problem of like thinking kind of cancel the season as far as like OKC's dominance is we do this every year.
That's true.
Every time a team wins the championship, this is the dynasty. We did it with Oklahoma City. We did it with the Celtics, Boston, the Lakers. Like, we have to accept the fact that there's a reason why we have all of these new champions. It's because of the rules that the NBA has made. It's harder for you to keep players, right? We're going to go into OKC's books in a little bit. It's harder for you to make trades. They've made the draft even harder for you to acquire players. Like, the NBA is doing as best of a job as it can to not have dynasties. Now, I think that's a good thing. I don't necessarily think that because I think we hold on to things for a lot of nostalgic reasons instead of realizing that things change as things go along. I don't necessarily think that fans particularly like it just being two teams every single time or one team every single time. I think that there is a level of how hockey used to be. Baseball, I think, is in a very much like this. Football, I actually think, is moving more towards of what the NBA was as far as like it's like a dominance per se. Like, I mean, how many times were the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, right? This was the first year they didn't make it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that the NBA has pushed towards. And I just think you need these black swan moments in order to create these dynasties. That's why I don't think they're predictable. They are dynasties for a reason, right? There's very few of them in there. And I think the biggest thing that we found also is that I think the internet finally turned on OKC. Like, I think that Shea and what the Thunder do is incredible. I think Sam Presti's the best GM going. The foul baiting shit got to a point where it's like, dog, you gotta stop. Like, the one that's just seared into my brain is, I don't remember what game it was. It might have been game 5. Or sorry, rather it had to be game 6 maybe. But it's Spurs are in San Antonio playing OKC. And it's a shot where Fox is clearly like turning his body away. And you can literally see the airspace between Fox and SGA. SGA is whipping one of his legs back.
Yeah, midair
And falling down. And I'm like, dog, just shoot the ball.
Facts.
And it got to a point where people were trying to be like, I have some friends who are OKC fans who are like, no, you're not really seeing it. He's getting like, dog, no one plays basketball like this in any kind of way. Not in the NBA, not pickup basketball, not in the Euro leagues, not in the NBL. Nowhere else is this being played except for this one team. And then the flip side is they are tackling you on the other end.
Yeah.
So I feel as if they are going to be good next year, and we'll get into the Chet part of this. But to me, I hope that they saw the reactions to what was taking place with the foul baiting and go, we need to course correct this.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's well said. And definitely agree with that. I think two things are interesting about not only where the NBA is, but also OKC and its presence within the NBA history. One about the NBA history is it's funny how a league that's been essentially dominated and built this legacy on dynasty is, as you say, having this moment where, at least in the last decade, we haven't seen. It's been since 2018.
It's the last time was Warriors back to back.
Yeah.
This was the first time we had a team go back to back in the conference finals.
Exactly. Yeah.
Everyone else was lost in the second round.
Yeah. So it's so interesting, especially someone who appreciates the history of the league, to see this transition into hyper parity, hyper competitive balance. I remember I studied sports management in college, and this was a thing that I remember learning is like league and league officials, they aim to have this level of parity and competitive balance because uncertainty breeds like interest, and people not knowing who's going to be there at the end breeds excitement and anticipation. And so, and especially in the age of sports betting, having those things mixed in with people's ability to bet on outcome um, just heightens that level of anticipation and excitement for games even more. In theory, I mean, people have their own opinions on whether sports betting is a plague or an asset to sports in general, but I'll leave it at that. But and then as it pertains to OKC, I know as someone who grew up liking Kobe, especially when talking about like SGA, I I always feel like his game is like kind of similar to like older Kobe, like not quite
Yeah.
like aged out Kobe, but like
Like
Kobe,
36-year-old Kobe. Yeah.
almost like early 30s, like where
Okay.
he didn't quite have his lift, but like he had all the technical or foundational moves and things like that.
Yeah.
And everyone appreciated Kobe's IQ. And I remember I was watching one podcast, but they was talking about how no one gave Kobe the same type of grief on his quote unquote foul baiting. But I always feel like the difference in OKC and SGA and is always how they do it and not what they do.
Yes.
So like I appreciate the IQ and the level of smartness that comes with like being able to bait or manipulate your opponent into fouling you. Like there is a skill to that. But as you discussed with the example of like Shea and De'Aaron Fox, the way you go about it affects like not only how people perceive you, but how people are consuming this entertainment product. And it's not an entertaining way to watch basketball in the way they go about, or I should say Shea goes about, his business in terms of getting fouls.
Well, it's not even just Shea, it's the whole team.
And
Like,
that too. Yeah.
the one where Jay Will, not Jay Dub, but Jay Will is just running up the court and then just fell down. Like the stuff with Chet, and I guess this is the part we can get into the Chet conversation of just, it is a large part of the team. I say this a lot of times. The shot that Wemby takes to tie the game in game one, the reason why he's so open is because Chet is crashing from the wing and flops, right? I think it's Champagnie is blocking out. You are 7 feet tall. Champagnie is what, 6'4"?
Yeah.
And completely has you on your backside. And this is the thing I think with Chet. I think, unfortunately, he has found himself in a one-way beef. What I mean by that is, I do not think he has a beef with Victor Wembanyama. I don't think he likes the guy, but I don't think he hates him.
Right.
Whereas Victor clearly despises this man. And it's one of those things where, like, when's the last time you've been to a fight?
Been to a fight?
Been in a fight. Sorry. Been in a fight. Yes.
Adolescence, I'm thinking maybe 14.
14. Okay. So we won't date anybody, but a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
But the moment you know you're in a fight, probably when someone throws a punch, whether it's you or the other person. I feel like Chet is in a fight, and for some reason he hasn't realized that he's in one.
Right.
This man has gotten a level of embarrassment that I think is hard to quantify for a guy of his status. Like, let's keep it a stack. I always feel like, I think Nick Wright said this. Once you win a championship early, like when you're like in your like maybe like mid-20s, like early in your career, your career becomes a lot easier to deal with. Like Kawhi, I felt like had a lot of pressure to lift off to him,
right?
Because he already won the championship. Like if he didn't win the championship in Toronto, no one's gonna be like loser, right? Like he already has the ring and was a contributing factor to it, so you can't take anything away from that. Same thing I feel with Jaylen Brown, even though he was a little bit older when this happened. Chet's in the same boat. He's 24. He's already gotten paid and he's won a championship ring. You are already in that space of being a dominant player. Maybe if he keeps going at a certain trajectory, a Hall of Fame player. And he is getting his ass kicked because he just happened to piss off the wrong guy.
Yeah.
So how do you think this series obviously went for Chet, which was terrible, but just how his future is as just frankly an NBA player, or how he's going to be looked at?
I mean, I feel like this is almost warrants its own episode in terms of discussing what happened to Chet in this series, how this could possibly affect his future, his career as a whole going forward, especially since he's playing in the same timeline as Wembanyama. But one thing, I don't know if you heard the story. I remember I was listening to Brian Windhorst and his podcast. He told the story of it was Chet. Chet was meeting up with Wemby. I think Wemby was being drafted, and obviously Chet was drafted the year before. And I don't know, there was, I think Brian Windhorst was interviewing Wemby, and I forget what the venue was, but like Chet was also there. And then Chet comes in, and then he introduces himself again, because obviously they met before in that famous USA game. But he introduces himself to Wemby and Wemby's mom. And so he goes like, "Oh, hi, my name is Chet. Do you remember who I am?" to Wemby's mom. And then Wemby's mom's like, "Yes, I remember who you are, obviously, because the last time we all saw each other, you made my son cry because you beat him in the finals." So I think that level of like trolling is something that kind of like is probably not the full inception of Wemby's hatred towards Chet, but gives you some context as to why there's so much venom from this one-way beef. But also, I think it's also that Chet puts off this personality of like very confident, just hearing him in interviews, hearing how he interacts with his teammates, and just how he interacts in the public's face. He exudes, confidence, swag, all that stuff as, someone who's been touted as a high prospect since he was like 12. But to see him, whimper in this battle against Wembanyama is definitely just a huge disappointment for people who've been following him for a long period of time. And it's one thing to like not be capable of fighting back, but to not be willing to fight back is a whole nother story and a whole nother discussion. And it's really like it's killing people's preconceived notion of who they thought Chet was. They thought he was this person who could almost like match Wembanyama's skill for skill and profile for profile because of the size and the versatility of Chet's supposed game. But seeing them face off in this battle and him not rise to the occasion is definitely leaving a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, and just like it's probably killed his overall reputation, at least in the short term. Because the thing about France and versus USA for the Olympics to come, Chet is supposed to be the guy to counterbalance Wemby, and seeing him, not live up to that in this first battle is it's not something to look forward to.
And that's the thing that you just point at. Everywhere this man goes, he's going to be watching him. Yep. They're in the same division. I know people don't really care about divisions. Right. But he got to play him 4 times.
Yeah,
he's in the same conference. That means that to get to the title, you either are going to have to beat him or beat the team that beat him. Mm-hmm. And then you just got the capper on your head. Olympics, he can't run away from this man. There's no escaping what is going to happen. And the fact that they are literally damn near the same age, he is going to have to retire to get away from the abuse that it's come down from this man. And it's so nuts. And I think, I've talked to a few OKC fans, as crazy that it might be, as someone who lives in New York, having OKC fans, but they seem very upset with Chet, calling him names that I will not repeat on this podcast. But
I've seen him too. Yeah.
I don't think that I think that this is going to be somewhat overblown, right? Like, we're talking about a team that won a championship literally last year. People were saying that they were inevitable and that they were going to win back-to-back championships. And their second best player played one game of this series. True, and a guy who was a facsimile of what their second best player was, AJ Mitchell, didn't play at all.
Yeah.
I don't see the Giannis to OKC move that I think a lot of people are trying to forecast, just because if you look at Sam Presti's history, he's never really done any version of that. Like he's always kind of played things either relatively conservatively or pushed things out. The most, I mean, if you want to say the most ballsy move he ever did was trading for Paul George. And that was a deal where he didn't really give up, I would say, anything that came back to bite him in Victor Oladipo and Domantas Sabonis, right? Like both those players were good, but like
Paul George was
nothing.
worth it.
Exactly. Paul George was extremely worth it. The man almost finished third MVP the year that he played with the Thunder.
And then he saved himself by flipping PG.
And then flipped, exactly, right? So I don't see that happening in terms of making a move for Giannis.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they need to have a sit down with Chet and be like, what kind of career do you want to have? Because we can't hide you out here, right? And unless you take this more personally, this is going to be what's happening. And he's still super young. The team is super young. Fans get way too emotional with these things and making all these granular kind of moves.
Yeah,
and so I don't
playoffs.
Exactly. And I don't think they're going to make a play for Giannis. I do have a question, though, about what's going to happen with their roster. Hence why I was very skeptical of the dynasty talk, because if you look at it, they have team options on both Lou Dort and Isaiah Hartenstein this coming year. Hart's making about $30 million. Lou Dort's making $18 million. The contract extensions for both J-Dub and Chet kicking this coming year.
Yeah.
So they're going to be a second apron team unless they do something about this. My feeling is that definitely one of those guys are gone, and I can see both guys being gone.
Which ones?
Sorry, Dort and Hartenstein. Because the thing that I have felt by a long time is I don't believe teams are going to stay in the second apron for long. I think if you win the championship, it makes all the sense in the world to bring that team back and to enter it. But I think the biggest thing is that teams are going to do is they might stay in it for a year, maybe even 2 if you win the championship, but they are going to find ways to get out of it. Yeah. And I just don't think OKC wants to get in that space and ultimately stay there. Like, money's money.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you think that they're going to handle some of these deals going forward? I just think that the money that those guys are making, especially because you can also, this is the other part, is Cason Wallace is extension eligible.
Right.
And I think that's someone that they want to keep and can easily replace, let me not say easily, but can replace a lot of what Lou Dort gives them already, especially on the offensive end. So how do you, so you can go ahead. How do you feel about that?
I would say I definitely agree with you on Lou Dort. He is probably the first one out the door when considering all of the roster moves they have to make and money, all things considered, especially how he played in this series. The defense, you can say, is probably still there, but the shooting and the lack of consistency in it is definitely something that is that could probably get better or more consistent offensive performance from other players on the roster, especially when they're back to being full health. Like you said with Cason Wallace, even AJ Mitchell is a good defender. Isaiah Joe, who they didn't really play much, is also someone who could, fill in the gap left by Lou Dort. He had a great Thunder tenure, going back to, I remember having moments in the bubble, even though he got blocked by James Harden back then.
He got blocked by James Harden, Game 7.
Yeah. But yeah, very, he should be proud of his tenure with the Thunder, but I definitely think it's coming to an end. And then something that's really interesting is like, it used to be like, there would be like organic term limits to teams and their windows. It usually has something to do with age of your stars, and then sometimes it would be like, oh well, we can't. Owners don't want to pay too much in luxury tax, and we have too many good players and things like that, and so that will probably lead to the end of a window for a team. But essentially, with the second apron, we kind of see it play out in terms of the league has kind of created artificial term limits on teams' windows, as opposed to the organic stuff that I just listed before. Now, artificially, they are setting it based on essentially you're being priced out of your windows. And that's essentially what the second apron is doing. At least that's my understanding of it. And so kind of leading back to the original point of like leagues want to have parity and competitive balance and keep that uncertainty as to who's going to win year to year because that breeds excitement and anticipation. I think we're seeing that the second apron is kind of a tool to enable that. And hence why, as someone who believe OKC were at the verge of their dynasty, we're seeing like, oh, now these conversations coming up again because not only that you have other teams who are up and coming as well, but now you also have to deal with the second apron, withering your window and the amount of time you have with this core group. And so, again, like you said, Lou Dort probably out the window, out the door. I think I value Hartenstein, and I think the series kind of like adds to his value in terms of being able to have someone who can deal with Wemby and apply pressure and defensive effort and make it a struggle against Wemby because we see that Chet doesn't want to step up to that challenge apparently. So he probably has played himself into staying on the team and receiving another contract with the Thunder. But yeah, it's either they're going to, prioritize drafting a big in the draft. I haven't done scout work in terms of seeing who's out there. There's definitely other bigs in terms of free agency that they can probably sign just to like have a body for Wemby, similar how back in the day teams would have like 3 or 4 centers on the roster to deal with Shaq. Definitely going to see that being the new trend now is teams having bodies that can like, bruise and like deal with Wemby, at least try to push him around because obviously you're not going to be able to match his height and reach. But yeah, that's what I find most interesting about this is like not only is the window being artificially shortened by the second apron, but they are now the chasers instead of being the hunted. And it's definitely something I wouldn't have guessed a year ago when they were, winning the finals.
Yeah. I can see them being aggressive in this draft. Checking it right now. They have 2 first-round picks. They have the 12th and 17th pick, so 1 lottery pick in this draft. I think kind of around and agreeing to what you think about Hartenstein's deal. I can see them extending him, but having a lowered salary. So maybe give him 4 for 100, maybe 5 for 100 or 5 for 90, something in that ballpark. And, using that Dort money, I mean, $18 million is the perfect salary that you want to have to split up. You can get multiple role players with that. You could take him and maybe another kind of smaller salary combined up and get another starter if you need to. Again, we already just talked about the draft picks. If you want to combine, maybe they get into the top 5, top 6 of this draft if you include AJ Mitchell and Dort into a deal. I don't know if necessarily a team would wants to do that, but those things are the options that they have. But I think that their 3 guys are Shea, Dub, and Chet. And I think there's going to be a lot more of them having to bring these guys together for anything.
Yeah, but J-Dub's injury, though, it being a hamstring, that's definitely a big concern, especially being a Lakers fan, knowing how muscle injuries can be nagging and long-term, especially looking at Luka. That's definitely another issue that they're going to have to address. Hopefully, he just needs rest because, trying to play through the playoffs on a bad hamstring was obviously not the best thing for him to do. But hopefully, it's just a matter of him getting healthy.
But that's the thing, too, is like the reason why I would run it back by and large part is I don't think hamstrings are chronic, right? Like this is not a guy who I think by and large part has been hurt throughout his season. Now, look, he's the same guy who I think he had something with his wrists, so he needed like wrist surgery.
Yeah, last year
because he couldn't shoot the ball at all. Now he was able to play through it, but this was obviously an injury he couldn't play through. I think that you give these guys, because I don't think any of these guys are on bad deals, is what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't think even we fast forward, we're in 2027, and let's say they don't win the championship again. I don't think anyone's going to look at any of those guys as deals and be like, that's too much money, right? I think we were talking about J-Dubs being a potential top 10 player. And Chet, again, I know he's having a bad series. He still finished 2nd defensive player of the year this year, right?
Exactly.
Like he still brings a level of impact to the game, even if his offense might be a little bit hit or miss, right? They are going to still be in a good spot, even though they weren't able to win this championship right now. And I think trying to overcorrect and bringing in older guys, to me, is where teams go wrong all the time. Where like you panic because something didn't go right. And it's like, oh, we have to get Giannis. And then next year, there'll be another guy who wants out. Chris Persiani, he's a writer for somewhere in New York. I don't remember what publication he does. Hopefully he comes on this pod and he'll explain it. But the point is that every single year, a star wants out. Now, it's not the same level of star, but a star wants out. So you're always going to be in a surplus of some player being like, I want out. And I thought the second apron was going to do a lot more to quell those trade requests. But what I think has happened is with the second apron combined with the lottery odds, draft picks are going to be a lot less valuable. And it's going to be a lot more players, young players, cheap players. It's going to be kind of the commodity that's going to be going forward. But we're going to take another quick break. All right, we're back. Olisa's still here talking about media things that we need to cut. So I'm just going to throw some things out there to you. All right. And I want us to talk about things that we have to stop doing as an overall media basketball consumption watching.
Okay.
First thing, we need to stop with whoever wins the title being considered the next dynasty. We kind of just talked about this a little bit, but we need to look at history as predicting the future. We've already kind of gone over these things. But if I have to hear again, whoever wins, this team is shaping up to be the dynasty. And mind you, this isn't just a NBA take. Like, I think they were saying this for the Patriots, where like, we need to get prepared. I'm like, wait, time out. I'm sorry. What? Like, that's the thing. Patrick Mahomes was not considered to be the greatest quarterback coming out. No one thought he was going to be this guy. Okay. Yeah. It is rare to predict greatness. Rare. So can we please stop with every single team that wins it is going to be win the next 5 championships in a row and no one will ever beat them.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's so funny because like sports is the ultimate test in terms of like not acting like you can predict the future, because sports will always tell you that is never the case. Like something unexpected will happen and it will totally mess up how you perceived or how you expected things to turn out. And like you said, like it's so hard to predict not only good teams, but good players. Who's going to be here 5 years from now? Who's going to be here 2 years from now? Like no one, like you said, you talk about Patrick Mahomes, no one thought SGA was going to be the type of caliber player he was, even after his year with the Clippers. And so, it's kind of, going back just to the ego of man to think that he knows everything. We're definitely seeing that play out in sports and media takes, and definitely should retire that whole notion that whoever wins now is going to run the future. I'm definitely going to try to retire that mindset as well, because like we said, we have history telling us, especially in the NBA alone, that is things turn on a dime. And so just enjoy the moment, I guess, and give praise to the team that's able to accomplish the feat of winning the championship in that year. And then just recognize that next season is a whole different challenge altogether.
Now, with that said, it's going to be hard to do if Wemby wins the championship in like 5 games.
Exactly.
Next, things we need to cut. Putting Draymond Green on any relevant TV show. God, is this man fighting some copium? Like, I have long part realized that you got to stop grabbing the chicken, grabbing the fish, putting your hand in. Because I know what he wants. His podcast sucks. It sucks. I
have no opinion on that.
It's not good. The guy who came out and saying that he is new media, that he sees the game from a totally different lens, is the same guy giving the Skip Bayless level of takes of Dak Prescott sucks. Why? He just sucks. Okay. Very deep and analytical, my guy. And now he is just doing the goalpost moving with the Knicks. There's some new thing that he now created. First it was Knicks fans don't celebrate because your team will quit if you celebrate too hard. That was stupid. Then it was the team. It's a fluke because it's like the Atlanta Hawks from 5 seasons ago who didn't get as far as this Knicks team.
Yeah.
And now it is, well, we all knew the East wasn't that good. And so now it's prove me wrong, quote unquote. You already got proven wrong, dog. You're just going to move it the next time you get proven wrong again. Also, well, actually, you know what? I'm going to say that one about that one. But he is clearly trying to be groomed to be the next Charles Barkley, right? And I think the main difference between him and Barkley is Barkley said some stuff that you were like, what the hell, right? But the difference between Barkley and Draymond, not just to understand, Barkley was the vastly superior player, but Barkley could laugh at himself.
Yeah.
He always found the balance of kindness within himself. Listen, he's going to San Antonio where he said all the women were fat.
Yeah.
And no one is mad.
For years he would say that.
Years he was saying that. And no one got mad.
Yeah.
Because you can feel the kindness almost. You can like understand that it's very tongue in cheek. And mind you, this is
Barkley. It's the actual joke. Yeah.
Yes. Who said things about the Knicks all the time, but he found there's a je ne sais quoi about it. There's an ability to laugh at yourself with it. Draymond's ego is so much that he can't do it.
Right.
He can't do it. And this is the reason why they don't love you like that, dog. To quote a Draymond Green quote, you thought you was Kobe. We don't love you like that.
No, yeah, that's a well put. And I pretty much 100% agree with like the whole trajectory in terms of like how you put that, because I like when I see the clips of Draymond, the points I'm like, okay, that's a good point, is always when he's just talking basketball, when he's just talking like defense and things like that. And he's providing insights, which is what you expect for a player who's like, has the profile, the accolades, and the IQ, defensive IQ, at least, and offensive IQ. He's a great playmaker of Draymond. So it's like when he's just talking about what's happening on the court and how players are navigating the ins and outs of the game, I was like, oh, okay, I can see the value, and I can see why he has the following, or why he's able to keep getting booked on shows, like you said. But yeah, when he gets into his Skip Bayless bag, his Stephen A. Smith bag, when he tries to talk about things outside of his circle of competency, that's when you get annoyed. And then, like you said, he doesn't have the je ne sais quoi, the sense of humor, or just the personality to at least frame what he's saying as not even as jokes, because like you can critique people, but it's always how you do it, not always just what you say. And so he doesn't have that finesse to his game, kind of like his overall basketball game. He doesn't have that finesse to be able to navigate the ins and out of being a media personality, of being a pundit. And then when he gets shit thrown back at him, his ego, his pride always gets him into trouble, to kind of paraphrase what Austin Rivers said. So it's just he doesn't have the traits to be a Charles Barkley in the media world. And maybe he can develop that, but like from what we're seeing right now, I definitely don't see that to be the case. But it just feels like we're being force fed him, especially by TNT, because they know the end is kind of near when it comes to Charles and him being on the show. And they're obviously trying to groom him to be his replacement. But we're just seeing that, like, it's not there yet, or it might not ever be there. But like he's not Charles when it comes to being a likable basketball analyst. And analyst is kind of heavy lifting with Charles, because Charles is just more like a basketball personality. But yeah, it's yeah. I'm
not going to, like you said, TNT. It's funny you still call it TNT. It's not TNT anymore, but we all know what you mean. It's TNT. Yeah, I'm not going to Charles Barkley for discussions on the pick and roll. Next thing, want to cut. It's something that Draymond Green said. We all knew the East was weaker than the West. Okay, let's go ahead and look at that. So to be fair, Western Conference team this year, 222. I can talk. 232 to 220 against the Eastern Conference. That's damn near a 500 record. We had 10 teams in the Eastern Conference that were above 500 to 9 for the Western Conference. All NBA teams, 7 of those players played in the Eastern Conference versus 8 that played in the Western Conference. I understand that the top level talent, as far as one individual player, are in the Western Conference with Jokic, Wemby, Luka, SGA. Those 4 guys all made first team All-NBA. Yeah. You have LeBron, you have Kevin Durant, you have Steph Curry. You have the legends also in that conference.
Yeah.
With that being said, there is nothing that anyone can actually show me on paper that proves that this one conference is so much dominant than the Eastern Conference. Am I supposed to now believe that Portland was this great juggernaut of a team that got their ass beat by the Spurs? What about the Suns, who got dog walked in the first round? The Lakers, your Lakers, which, again, through injuries, got killed by OKC. If you put all the teams that didn't make the West Conference Finals in the Eastern Conference, are you convinced that Minnesota is getting to the finals? Portland's getting to the finals? The Lakers with their injuries are getting to the finals? The Rockets team that blew games that I didn't believe was possible that they blew? You got to stop the cap. And we've been doing this for a long time. You could even go back to the champions. We've had 8 different champions. The Raptors in the Eastern Conference, the Celtics in the Eastern Conference, the Bucks in the Eastern Conference. Like, y'all, we have created this point where we just say, it's one of those things where it's like, I forgot the terminology for it, but there's something where it's like the idea of a Band-Aid, right? When you think of a Band-Aid, it's something that you put on to if you have a cut. But the Band-Aid is the brand. It's not the actual thing that you're using. It's an adhesive, you know, but we don't say that. I remember one time I had a girl who wasn't from this country who wanted me to get something, and I had no idea what she was talking about because she didn't say the brand name of what it was. We were so trained in that way.
Yeah.
Because we have said the Western Conference is so much better than the Eastern Conference for so long, we have now convinced everyone that that's the case. And it's just, it's not true.
Yeah, no, yeah. There's definitely a level of nostalgia that goes into that take. At least, to be honest, how I perceived East versus West. Definitely growing up, 2000s, 2010s, definitely leaned towards in terms of West having better players and better teams. But as you put out the numbers, it's definitely way more balanced than people give it credit for. I should probably give it more credit for since I grew up and reside on the East Coast.
As a Wizards fan,
Yeah. So, but I would say, I think overall, I do agree with you that not only is the league balanced versus the East and West team, I feel like teams in the East are, I don't want to say more balanced, but like in terms of like roster makeup, because I know like you have OKC and San Antonio, they have the deepest roster. But when you look at the East, Boston, New York, certain teams when they're healthy and or at least on the rise, Atlanta has a pretty balanced roster if they can, fix up some of the fringes there. Detroit, they can just get 1 or 2 shooters. If you look at the roster in terms of like their athleticism and defense, I would say the East have, outside of those top heavy, those 2 teams with the OKC and then Spurs, there's a middle class with the East that's better than the middle class of the West, if I will put it that way. And especially with the aging superstars, I think that is going to continue to be the case because the middle class in the West is kind of made up of, your Kevin Durant's and the Rockets, at least for now. I would put the Lakers in the middle class as well. And, LeBron being, 41 years old. And then, I don't know, it depends on how.
But you just said what it was. You have these old legends who we all love propping up those teams with LeBron and Steph. Steph's team wasn't even that good. To be fair, he was hurt for a lot of this year.
Right.
But go check out the record of the 10th seed in the West and go check out the record of the 10th seed in the East. Yeah. One of those teams had a winning record and they didn't play in the Western Conference.
Yeah.
It is very much based in exactly how you put it. We have these superpowers at the top with OKC and the Spurs.
Yep.
And then you have these middle tier teams that include either guys that we love, Ant, guys who are legends, Kevin Durant and LeBron James, and MVP candidates in Jokic. I get that part of it. But as we have seen now, as far as a basketball game, that shit doesn't really matter. It has to do with your overall team. And I just, again, the Spurs can dominate the Knicks. No one, we do not know that as of yet. I don't think that's going to happen, but anything is possible.
Yeah.
Just throwing a random Western Conference team in the East Conference and think they're just going to run through it is just absurd.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I also think there's like, it's not, I don't want to say East Coast bias, but like because the Wizards and the Nets are on the East Coast and people will have more familiarity and probably see them more often than your Kings and Pelicans. Yeah. So
Memphis, those teams are bad.
Yeah. But it's because people probably see the Wizards play more often and the Nets play more often than your Grizzlies and the Pelicans. They probably perceive those teams being way worse than compared to those Western counterparts. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into this notion that the West is so much better than the East. But yeah, it's always funny to see how data kind of like shut things down or like counteract people's preconceived notions.
Yes. Last thing also for media cuts. Stop asking Becky Hammon the same fucking question. And about you would think I would be the one coming for Becky Hammon's neck. I'm not. Okay? Like, this whole thing with her, to be honest, I think is 60% baked in misogyny. She's a woman. She gave a strong take, and now we have to basically beat her ass over it for multiple years. Like, she is not wrong in the sense that we have not seen a guy be a certain height, win a championship for his team. We've seen Isaiah Thomas. We've seen Steph Curry. It's been two guys.
Right.
She is playing history.
Yeah.
And to be honest, a lot of people agree with her, including me. And clearly, now the thing that I said that was wrong was they didn't have a dude. I think that's the part where she's wrong about.
Yeah.
But she hasn't been proven wrong yet. As she has said, if I am proven wrong, I will say I was wrong. But this, I don't know if it's Knicks fans, media fans. I don't know who is like constantly trying to drum this up. Like, dog, like let this lady do her job. She's not a commentator. She is a coach.
Yeah. They asked her a question. She gave an answer.
And it's like, we are constantly, and again, this is to get into stupid conversations of just women having opinions and guys freaking the fuck out about an opinion.
Yeah.
She said what she said. A lot of people have been wrong about Jalen Brunson. Yeah. A lot of men have been wrong about Jalen Brunson.
Facts.
And we have essentially stopped that part of it. But we are continuously chastising this woman about this when, again, she has not been proven wrong and has openly said, if I am wrong, I will say I am wrong.
Right. No, yeah. I think it's definitely one of those cases where, you just have the internet being the internet. It's also the fact that like the nuance of there's a rule and there's an exception. And in this case, both things are right. She's right in that we haven't seen someone of the profile of Brunson do the things he's done in terms of carrying a team and potentially winning an NBA championship solely or not largely based on their performance. But also going back to the rule part, yeah, Brunson is essentially an exception, like the two other exceptions you named in Isaiah Thomas and Stephen Curry. So just give credit to Brunson for proving that he is an exception to this rule. And it just goes on to add to his overall legacy and his profile as, the King of New York, to be able to do all this in his 6'2" frame and how Scout said he lacked lateral quickness and things of that nature. But all that being said, he's carrying he's leading the Knicks. I don't want to say carrying. They have a great team. He's leading the Knicks. He's been doing this for a while, and he's continuing to prove all the doubters wrong that like essentially had him being the fourth best player on his Villanova team in the 2018 draft. So
That is nuts. Yeah. Because
yeah,
he's the
like
lowest draft pick of all of them.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so nuance is always lost on people, especially on people on the internet, and so I feel bad for Becky. I mean, she gave a good answer. She did what they asked her to do. She gave an answer that drove conversation. So as a pundit or as a TV personality, she did her job. But yeah, like let it go, move on and just appreciate what you have in this new Knicks team.
Yes. All right. We're going to take another quick break and we're going to come back and actually talk to you about the NBA Finals that we will be watching. All right, we're back to close out the show. We will be talking about the series, and mostly we will be talking, I believe, about what is at stake for these teams. We have Victor Wembanyama, who is almost as close to becoming the face of the league as humanly possible if he is not there already.
Right.
He's going to be potentially doing all of this in the eye of New York City. We might have the president of the United States attend one of these games, which we will get to in a bit.
Oh, boy.
And I think I'll start with Wemby and the Spurs to start. I think the way to look at this is, and I felt like this even if they had lost to OKC, this is all gravy. You have the ultimate cheat code in potentially becoming a dynasty. I know we just talked about the idea of getting a dynasty before, but you need to have, in my opinion, black swan events for dynasty to take place. Please go ahead and check other episodes. We have talked about black swans already as far as who will win championships or not. But they have it in Victor. They have their dudes already. And they essentially were a lottery team who ran through the vaunted Western Conference and got all the way up to the top. Damn, how strong is your conference when some randos out of the lottery were able to come through and beat the hell out of all y'all?
Yeah. Jalen Harper was the second pick, right?
Yes, this is his rookie year. He's in the finals already. And I think that this has the ability to shoot not just the Spurs, obviously, up into they're already in title contention, but shoot this man up into this GOAT stuff is really on the table. I think that the only guys who have won to be the best player on a championship team with this many years left, like how many years they were in the league, are only Dwayne Wade and Magic Johnson are the guys who were able to do so.
I would throw Kobe in there too.
Well, that's the whole thing. Yeah. Like he's the second best player. Best player was Shaq. It's hard for me to ever say that because Shaq was just such that dude. But to your point, Kobe made a lot of plays to get those teams to the championships in the first three. Well, they're only three-peat, I guess, that they had. And so I think that this is his moment to not. He's already a star. He's already considered, I think, the best player in the NBA. But the league is physically going to be handed over to him in a way, and it's going to move the way that he wants to move. Yeah. So how do you feel this championship could potentially affect Wemby and how we look at him going forward?
Man, I was trying to do an internal debate on not who this championship will mean the most to, because I feel like the answer by default is the Knicks, just being their history. But in terms of legacy building, especially when you look at the stars, I would say Brunson would have probably the more to gain by winning this. But in terms of coordinating a new face in the league, a new best player in the world, and how momentous of a moment this could be, Wemby is definitely, I think this all aligns well for Wemby to essentially take off as not only just a league superstar, but as a global sports superstar. It kind of reminds me almost like Messi in when he won that championship. I want to say like 2006. He won it, and then he showed so much great promise, and he played so well that it was just like, oh, this guy is the guy for the foreseeable future of soccer or European soccer. And I'm seeing a lot of similarities in how Wemby and like his like meteoric rise, especially being that this is only his third season, and you know, just everyone is projecting for so much greatness and for such a long time. You know, knock on wood, if he's able to stay healthy, that this it would just be a coronation of everybody's projection, in a similar vein to how it was for Messi in the late 2000s. So, yeah, in terms of being able to not only build but create a huge brand for himself, for a brand that's already big at the moment, it's going to be great for Wemby. It's going to be great for the league because not only will you have someone who's so unique of not only as an athletic build but also as a character that is Wemby, and then you know business wise the global reach of him being a French superstar, you know, continue to build that presence over in Europe is, I mean, a lot of things are aligning for both Wemby and the league, if he's able to, you know, put a cap on this great season and become NBA champion.
And I also think that his ability to affect culture, I think, is there too. I was having conversation with people, and they were kind of not making fun of it, but they were kind of talking about the quote he gave after the game, where he said, like, "I play like my life's on the line."
Mm.
Like, he clearly cares.
Yeah.
From punking Chet every time that he plays him to being like, "I'm going to embarrass you in this All-Star game."
Right.
He's making caring cool, because for so long, whether it was regular season, I'm not playing in this city, to you know, like, I'm taking these games off, or I don't try hard on defense, like, this guy gives a fuck, and he's clearly willing to show that on the court, and he's showing that with his emotions,
Yeah.
being comfortable with who he is as a person. And people respond to that. People see that and see comfortable with that. You know, a lot of times people are afraid to speak out, you know, and speak out and show who they are. And go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it's not only the passion, it's the ambition. If you look at the history of Wemby or like his story, he's been like prepping for this since he was 10, 11 years old. You know, just the stories of him. He English is not his first language, but like he knew he knew he was on the path of being a great NBA player. So he wanted to learn English in order to prepare for what, you know, this all would entail for him.
And it's funny you even said that. We don't even think about that with him.
Exactly, because
we never think so well. Outside of someone like Shohei Ohtani, who can definitely speak English. He just chooses not to. Oh, what? I have seen that dude have full on conversations with people. That boy can speak English. Right. But it's camera, microphone. Be no English, poppy. Like, he chases his vibe up the whole time. And not just that, it's thoughtful conversations that we're able to speak in this language, right?
Right.
So yeah, like he is absolutely a guy who has built himself for this moment, not like the material candidate. Kids, Google the movie if you don't know what I'm talking about. Not in that kind of way, but in a way of, I'm being myself because I'm about to ball up these motherfuckers. Like, that kind of way.
It almost reminds me of like a tennis prodigy, and how like, you know, for like tennis, you have to start way early in order to be great. And like, he kind of had that same foresight in terms of like, he knew, you know, he was in he's going to be a special athlete just on his build alone. So he started prepping for that, and not only like speaking English, but like doing like foot and ankle exercises to increase his mobility in his ankles. Like, most teenagers aren't thinking like that. He was thinking like that back then when he was still over in France. And it's just like the mentality thing, like, you know, obviously the famous thing of studying with the monks, but like reading at 9:30 every day, things like that. You know, it's this whole, I'm always online. There's the budding narrative that like he's making nonchalant. He's getting rid of nonchalantness in society, or he's like, he's making caring cool again, like you said. And I think it's an accurate way to put it, because, you know, excuse me, to compare it to like someone like SGA, who's like known for being too cool for school, the Instagram quotes and the fur coats and things like that, and even like it kind of like affected the whole OKC team and how they go about and through their public relations. Seeing someone who's like passionate, and I don't even want to use the demonstrative that has such like a negative connotation, but just like the want to, the not only I know what I want, but I'm going to go get it, and you know what I want, and you're going to see me go get it, and I don't care how you perceive me to as I go and attain my goals, and that is definitely something that is really admirable and love to see, especially after dealing with pretty much a decade of athletes like feeling like they could care less about games or putting in the extra effort or probably for some fans not being gracious or having the gratitude for their where they are in life. So it definitely feels like he has gratitude about where he is and where he can potentially be as a superstar, and like we said, it's really cool to see.
Exactly, man. And yeah, it's just a lot to see. And for him to be doing this, we can talk about the Trump thing a little bit here in front of.
Okay.
Well, the thing is that I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I've changed my opinion on this because there's a lot of people who have this idea that he is going to get roundly booed. I actually disagree.
I mean, isn't the notion that most New Yorkers don't like him and his family? So
a lot of New Yorkers do not like him.
Right.
There's going to be a lot of rich motherfuckers in that building.
That's a good point.
And there's a lot of rich people swing. Like, we can get into the politics of a lot of stuff, but I think that people who agree with me, and I will also assume maybe you, think that he is, yes, is this man deeply unpopular? Yes, I am not saying he is not deeply unpopular. But it's almost like when you cross the Rubicon, it's the thing I always talk about, the idea of anger, right? Anger taps out. Like, you can only get but so angry.
Right.
When you are in this deep, this is not a new candidate. This man has been in politics for 10 years.
Yeah.
This idea that he's not a politician is a lie. And so you've already doubled down and tripled down. There is nothing at this point now he can do to have lost your support. You are either in it or you are there. And I bring all that to say is that I think that the reaction would be a lot more split than I think people are ready to admit. And that's actually not the reason why I think he's not going to go. I actually heard this from a sports radio show, and they gave it a lot more, I think, clarity in my mind. As someone who, funny enough, was just in the Garden. The chaos that's going to come is impossible. Right. Like, they were talking about, like, you have to close off streets. And for people who don't realize this, let me take a step back. Madison Square Garden, the reason why it's not just the world's most famous arena just because of where it is, it's in large part because where it's located. It is really in the center of Manhattan. Like, it is dead center. Like, if you want to get into Manhattan, by a large part, thousands of people get into Manhattan by going through Madison Square Garden.
Right on top of a train station.
That's the thing. It's on top of a train station. So how exactly are you going to get a president of the United States in a building where you might have to shut down the block of Midtown? That's not going to work.
That's going to piss a lot of people off.
That's going to piss off a lot of people. And then you have an active subway behind. You're going to cut off the subway? That's not going to happen. Right? And so I think of all of those things and reasons why I think he's actually not going to show up.
Yeah. I mean, that just makes too much sense. Just logistics alone, it doesn't make sense for him to go. And then for vibes, I wouldn't have NBA fans having a high affinity for, Trump and MAGA. That Venn diagram doesn't really
But
feel like.
again, I do not think this is going to be NBA fans. Yes, do these people like basketball? Sure. Do I think everyone in that building could name you? Again, Knicks fans, I could tell you every single person on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there are going to be a lot of people in this building of, oh, this is a cool thing for me to do. I am now pulling up. Like there's
the real fans can be priced out.
Exactly. The real fans can be priced out. Don't get it twisted. The Lakers and Knicks can have a lot more in common if the Knicks were good. They have just been ass. Let's not sit up here, and I'm not trying to pretend to you that, oh my God, so many Knicks fans are so knowledgeable. There are a lot, just like there are a lot of Lakers fans who could break down the salary cap and do all these things for me, right? I'm not casting aspersions on them. But winning brings a lot of the bandwagoners on, right?
That's true.
And so, no, I think that people would be in that building because they can afford to be in that building, not because they necessarily are, die in the wool Knicks / NBA fans.
Yeah.
Per se.
Yeah, I think that's well said. Yeah, again, I don't think he's going to go. I think there's a lot of talk, which aligns with how the administration moves. Would be very surprised if he actually shows up, and definitely interested in how all the reactions of the city will go if he actually turns up for a game.
Yes, killing the vibes, which are immaculate right now for the Knicks.
Right,
and the side of this is just, I don't think I allow myself to even think what it would be like to win an NBA championship. But you have a team that is, I think Simmons did this the best. There are certain teams that are so associated with losing that you're so not used to seeing them winning, right? Arsenal, that was a big thing. I know, unfortunately, they lost the overall championship, but they won the Premier League, was a big deal for them.
It was.
The Cubs winning the championship, right?
Yep, remember that. Yeah.
The Browns, I think, would be astonishing if the Browns ever got to there because they're still a established NFL team.
Yeah.
The Maple Leafs, but we don't really care about hockey like that. And I think the Knicks, this is like one of the true last ones that we have of a team that we are like, they've been bad for so long. It always felt like someone was Charlie Brown with the football with them. They always had to go through LeBron, even though LeBron, I think, only beat the Knicks twice in the postseason because they were always bad. Actually, I think it was no, I take it back. He only beat them once in the postseason. That was the 2012 Heat team. That was the year Amari fucking ripped his hand up by punching a fire escape.
Yeah.
And all those times, all those bad draft picks, all those horrible executives to sell the team chance. It's a culmination of a franchise in a city that loves this team. And as much as people think this is a Yankees town or a Giants town, this city loves the Knicks.
Yeah.
And it's the one thing that we all love here. And I think them winning a championship would be one of the most remarkable things that I think has ever happened in basketball. Because again, this is not like they got Victor Wembanyama, right? And they were like, oh, this team's going to win the championship if they just make the smart moves. Oh, they signed LeBron James. They're going to win a championship because he does all these things. They're going to win the championship because they traded for Luka Doncic, right? Like, there are certain players when they come to your team or they get on your team, you have to make so many horrible decisions for that player to not grant you a championship. That's not what this Knicks team was. It's a lot like what those Pistons teams were in the early 2000s with Chauncey and Rip. It was a lot of, I'm not going to call them castaways, but it's a lot of guys on different teams where they were all very good NBA players, but you never thought of these guys as being pantheon players, like top 30, top 20, top 10 players of all time. And if they're able to beat someone who, again, looks like he is on track to be the greatest player in the history of basketball, I think it cements Leon Rose as a Hall of Famer. I think Brunson, I think right now is a Hall of Famer if he stopped playing basketball right now.
Yeah.
Cat. Well, no, go ahead. I want to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I would say Brunson is definitely like 75% there, and like
go look
two
at
more.
Kyle Lowry's career, man.
Well, yeah, I always forget how low the bar is.
That's what I'm saying. The bar is like that's what I'm saying, because I wanted to tie it together with someone like Cat.
Yeah,
because as of right now, I don't mean to disrespect this man because he also played for the Knicks, but I look at I gave it away. I look at Karl-Anthony Towns' career a lot like how I look at Amari Stoudemire. Like Amari Stoudemire is a Hall of Famer.
I agree.
But if he never made the Hall of Fame, I would have been like, yeah, that's fine.
I agree with that too, yeah.
You know, like he was a very good player. He played, I believe, like 12 years in the league. The back end years weren't great.
Yeah.
But it always felt like you wanted more from this guy. And I think this run has done a lot for Cat. And I think if he wins the championship, lock in. I think Mike Brown wins this championship, lock, he's in. Leon, lock in the Hall of Fame if he wins the championship. And I think it ultimately validates the Knicks in a way that I don't think NBA media has done in a very, 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 very long time.
Yeah. Okay, so two things. One, as someone who grew up in DC, I got to push back on if the Wizards were to actually have this run, it'd probably be one of the more miraculous things that happen in sports.
Listen, shout out to the Bullets. You know, yeah, I remember. I'm still there. Listen, the Knicks Bullets back in the day, that used to be a real rivalry. People,
shout out to Bernard King, who played for both.
Yeah,
but I think the main difference between the Wizards lore and then New York Knicks lore is that the Knicks actually had legit chance within those decades of despair of actually attaining the championship. You have the 90s, even they had good teams in the 80s, but yeah, the 90s, and you have now this era. But then they were always sandwiched by a lot of dark times and a lot of losing, as you well know. I'll say it's funny enough, the last time both teams won the championships were in the like mid 70s or mid to late 70s. But yeah, I just had to put that out there as a DC native. And then the second thing is in terms of like the Knicks and like just encasing and contextualizing this achievement for them. I actually wrote about this in my latest Substack. But we talk about Brunson and how unlikely his whole career has been and what he's been able to do. Mike Brown as well. Doing my research, figuring out Mike Brown's been coaching for a while, like almost 20 years, while. Like he's been on a lot of great teams as either a head coach or an assistant coach. I think I made the joke that essentially if everywhere you look in the past 20 to 25 years, if you looked at a great team, he was most likely on their bench. Looking at like the early 2000 Spurs, he was actually on the Indiana Pacers of that early 2000s. He was actually a part of the Malice in the Palace. He was the one who had to go in and grab Ron Artest.
Yo, he really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did a podcast episode of All the Smoke when he talked about it as well.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, he was in the trenches with that. He coached LeBron to the 2007 finals, and also he was LeBron's coach for his first 2 MVPs. I want to go down the whole resume, but yeah, like you said, this in terms of culminating a career, Mike Brown, Jalen Brunson, and Leon Rose, especially Leon Rose and World Wide West for what they've been able to do with this Knicks. And the 2000s, 2010s, a lot of dark times and a lot of executives who thought they had the know-how and the secret sauce in order to save this franchise, this flagship franchise, by the way. Like the Knicks not only is the biggest market in the league, but is also one of the original teams of the league. So the fact that gone 50 years without a championship, and the last 20 years alone in terms of like how bad it gotten and the damage to the reputation of a team that the last 20 years has done, gotta give a huge congratulations to what Leon Rose and World Wide West have been able to do in order to essentially save this franchise, save them from their own owner and James Dolan. And the unique way they went about building this team because it's actually a big, like an interesting contrast between how the Spurs, who essentially drafted most of their core players outside of De'Aaron Fox, but yeah, drafted Wemby, drafted Harper, Castle, Vassell, Bryant as well, Keldon Johnson. So yeah, and then you look at the Knicks on the other side, they signed Jalen Brunson, traded for Cat, traded for Mikal, traded for OG, traded for Josh Hart. So yeah, it's like this series is like a good way to see that there's different ways to go about winning or go about building a great roster, and it's pretty cool to see that play out in this NBA Finals. But
exactly,
yeah.
man. That is all the time that we have. Thank you guys again for listening. That is Olisa Azikiwe. Check him out on his Substack. Please find him, read
Sports
him.
NBA or the Fan Economist. Those are the two different names for the same Substack. Sorry about that, but hopefully I be able to change it to one name in the future. But yeah, I write about stuff that interests me in the world of sports and sports business, and hopefully I can do more in the same realm later. Maybe the YouTube channel, who knows? Might start posting more on social media. But yeah, I like sports and I like the business around sports, and I try to write about it.
Exactly. And again, thank you guys again for listening to the Men Who Cry podcast. Again, give us a 5-star review. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. If you not do these things, I have to assume that you thought you were going to be able to get into the Garden or the World Cup for under $2,000. Thank you guys again for listening. Catch you guys later.
Peace.
Peace.